Good luck on your date. That's all I said. For stupid words, tossed out like a casual tease while she stood in the doorway, slipping on her coat. She froze. Not just her hands. Her whole body locked up like she'd been caught in the middle of something criminal. Her face twisted into this forced, twitchy smile. But her eyes went wide like a deer staring down headlights. I didn't even have time to process it before she stammered. What? Don't be ridiculous, and laughed in a way that wasn't laughing at all. I didn't say another word. I just leaned against the kitchen counter, my heart thudding, trying to act like I was joking. But inside, I felt that sinking weight, the kind of gut punch you can't explain. I wasn't joking anymore. Not even a little. She left the house, and the silence swallowed me whole. The sound of the front door closing was like someone slamming a cell door shut. I sat down at the table, staring at the chair she'd just vacated, and my mind went wild. It was her face. That panic. You don't fake that. You can't. I tried to distract myself, scrolling through my phone, flipping TV channels, but nothing stuck. Every second that ticked by felt like another confirmation that she wasn't where she said she was. She didn't even say where dinner with the girls was happening tonight. Just that vague, lazy excuse. I've been married long enough to know when details get fuzzy, something's wrong. By 11 p.m., I wasn't even trying to convince myself anymore. I was pacing around the house like an idiot, staring out the window every time headlights flashed down our street. When her car finally pulled into the driveway, my stomach turned. Clara walked in smelling different. Not her usual perfume, not food, not wine. There was this faint, musky cologne I didn't recognize, clinging to her scarf like a ghost I couldn't see. She tried to kiss me goodnight, but I caught the hesitation, that tiny pause before leaning in. I said nothing. Not because I didn't want to, but because I was terrified of what would spill out if I opened my mouth. And as I lay there in bed, staring at the ceiling while she scrolled through her phone in the dark, one thought wouldn't leave me. I think I just caught my wife in a lie without even trying. I barely slept that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that frozen look on Clara's face. It was like a film reel stuck on a single frame. Her hand halfway to her coat pocket, her smile faltering, her pupils widening just enough to betray her. I stared at the ceiling until dawn, my mind spinning with possibilities I didn't want to believe. The next morning, she acted like nothing had happened. She hummed while making coffee, kissed me on the cheek like she always does, and asked about my day ahead. I wanted to ask her about the night before, about the smell of cologne, the weird silence between us, but every time I opened my mouth, the words got stuck in my throat. I sounded pathetic even in my own head. Where were you last night? Why did you look terrified when I joked about a date? I knew she'd have answers ready. Smooth, rehearsed answers that would make me feel like the paranoid fool she probably thinks I am. But something inside me was shifting. I felt like I was on the outside of my own marriage, watching it through glass, seeing cracks spiderwebbing across the surface. That night wasn't just a one-off. It was the result of weeks, maybe months, of her pulling away. The constant texting she hides when I walk into the room. The late meetings that don't add up. The way she laughs less around me, but lights up when her phone buzzes. I tried to convince myself I was wrong. I tried to bury the unease under work, chores, anything that would keep my hands and mind busy. But every little thing she did now felt like a clue. When she took her phone into the bathroom with her, I couldn't help but wonder who she was texting at 11 p.m. When she smiled while staring at her screen, it felt like a blade twisting in my chest. I know this sounds weak, but I started testing her. Stupid little tests, like casually asking about her plans for the weekend, pretending I'd forgotten what she told me earlier. I caught her slipping once. She said she was having brunch with Maya, then later mentioned she might see Maya on Sunday. She brushed it off as a mix-up, but I felt my stomach drop. And then, last night, I noticed something that made my blood run cold. Her car's mileage didn't match the distance she claimed to have driven. It was off by a good 20 miles. She didn't mention taking any detours. She didn't mention anything at all. I don't know what to do with this information yet, but it's eating me alive. I'm becoming this shadow of myself, this guy who checks the clock every time she's late, who pretends to sleep just to catch the sound of her whispering into her phone in another room. And the worst part? A part of me already knows the truth, but I'm too scared to say it out loud. By the third night after that moment in the doorway, I realized I couldn't keep living like a ghost in my own house. I was eating dinner with Clara, nodding at her small talk, but inside my mind, I was screaming. Every word she said felt rehearsed. Every time her phone buzzed, I caught her glancing at it like she was checking if I noticed. I did notice. I noticed everything now. The way she turned her screen away from me. The way her smile looked forced when I asked how her day was. I kept replaying that single second, the panic in her eyes when I joked about her date. I can't describe how deep that cut went. It's like I finally saw a version of her that I wasn't meant to see. I tried to tell myself I was being dramatic, but my gut wouldn't let me. I'm not a strong guy. I'm not the type to go all detective mode. But that night, lying in bed beside her, I felt my hands shake as I stared at the ceiling. Something inside me whispered, "You need to know." So I did something I've never done in my life. The next day, while she was in the shower, I checked her car. My heart pounded like I was committing a crime. The passenger seat was pushed back farther than she likes it, and there was this faint smell of aftershave. Not mine. Not anyone's I recognized. There was a tiny receipt crumpled in the side pocket. Some cafe I'd never heard of, with a timestamp from the night she said she was at dinner with the girls. I stared at it until my hands went numb. I didn't confront her. I didn't even know what to say. I'm not proud of what I did next, but I need answers, even if they destroy me. I downloaded a cheap GPS tracker app and hid it in her car. My chest felt tight the whole time, like I couldn't breathe. I hate what I'm becoming, a man sneaking around his own marriage, but I can't take the not knowing anymore. Every time I look at her, every time she smiles at me, I wonder who else gets that smile. That evening, she mentioned she'd be meeting Maya again. I nodded like I didn't care, but inside I was on fire. I watched her leave, my phone in my hand, waiting for the tracker to update. And then I saw it. She didn't go anywhere near Maya's neighborhood. She drove across town, to some upscale hotel I've never been to. I stared at that blinking dot on my phone screen, my heart sinking lower and lower. When she came home later, acting like everything was normal, I could barely look at her. She kissed me on the forehead and asked if I wanted tea. Tea, like nothing had happened. I mumbled no and watched her walk into the kitchen, and I swear I felt like I was living with a stranger. I don't know what I'm supposed to do next. I'm terrified to confront her because I think I already know what she'll say, and I don't know if I'm ready to hear it. I lasted 3 more days pretending like nothing was wrong, but inside, I was coming apart at the seams. Every conversation with Clara felt like I was speaking to someone wearing a mask. Her words were sweet, her tone was normal, but there was this distance, a shadow lurking behind her eyes that I couldn't ignore anymore. I kept thinking about that hotel the tracker showed me. She never mentioned anything about being near that part of town. Every time I looked at her, I wanted to scream, "Who were you with?" But I didn't. I swallowed the words, and they burned in my throat like poison. On the 4th night, something snapped. We were eating dinner, takeout sushi she brought home, and she was scrolling on her phone between bites. I watched her thumb move across the screen, the way she tilted the phone slightly away from me, and I just lost it. I slammed my chopsticks down harder than I meant to and said, "So, how was the hotel?" The room went dead silent. She froze, mid-scroll, her eyes lifting to meet mine. For a second, I saw that panic again, but this time it was sharper. She blinked, her lips parting slightly like she couldn't form words fast enough. What are you talking about?" she asked, her voice too calm, too measured. I leaned forward, my voice shaking with anger and fear I'd been bottling up. "Don't play dumb with me, Clara. I know you weren't with Maya last Friday. I know where you were." I couldn't bring myself to say hotel again, because just saying it made my chest tighten like someone was crushing me. Her face turned pale. Not the "you're ridiculous" pale I expected, but the kind of pale that told me I'd hit the bullseye. She stammered, "Ernest, you're being paranoid." I don't know what, but she stopped mid-sentence when she saw my face. I wasn't joking. I wasn't smiling. I couldn't take it anymore. I got up from the table, grabbed my phone, and showed her the tracker app. Her eyes widened in disbelief, then anger. You tracked me? You think you can spy on me like that?" she shouted, her voice rising for the first time in months. "Yes, because you won't tell me the truth." I shot back. My voice cracked, and I hated how weak it sounded. I hated how pathetic I felt. But I needed answers. I needed her to either lie to my face so I'd know for sure, or admit it so I could stop losing my mind. She didn't answer right away. Instead, she stood up, crossed her arms, and stared at me with this cold, unfamiliar expression. This is insane, Ernest. You're insane. Maya was at that hotel for a work thing. I stopped by for a drink. That's it. Her explanation was so flat, so weak, it felt like a knife to my gut. I wanted to believe her. God, I wanted to believe her so badly. But everything about her tone, her body language, screamed that she was hiding something. I sat down, my hands shaking, my head spinning. For a few seconds, neither of us said a word. We just stared at each other like two strangers trapped in the same house. That night, she slept on the edge of the bed, turned away from me. I didn't sleep at all. I just lay there in the dark, my mind replaying every detail, every little crack in her story. I realized something that terrified me even more than her possible betrayal. I don't think I know who my wife really is anymore. The next morning, Clara was gone before I woke up. No note, no text, nothing. Just the faint smell of her perfume lingering in the hallway like a ghost. I sat on the edge of the bed, my head pounding from the sleepless night, and I realized I was done being the passive, clueless husband who just swallowed lies like bitter pills. I needed the truth, even if it broke me in half. I started by going through the trash, something I never thought I'd do in my life. I found nothing at first, just takeout boxes and old receipts. But then I saw it. A folded napkin tucked into the side of the trash bag, like it had been hidden on purpose. I unfolded it, and my stomach flipped. It was from the same cafe where I'd found the receipt in her car. Written in pen, in someone else's handwriting, was a name and a phone number. The name was Nate. I didn't know a Nate. She didn't have any coworkers named Nate. I stared at that napkin for a solid minute, my hands trembling, the room spinning around me. I should have stopped there. I should have waited until I could think straight. But my brain was on fire. I grabbed my laptop, searched the number, and what I found only made the ground under me shake harder. It was registered to a man in our town, a man who worked at, wait for it, that same hotel I'd tracked her to. That was it. My chest felt like it was going to explode. I couldn't believe this was happening, that I was actually uncovering a trail that felt like it was ripped straight out of some cheap drama. When Clara came home that evening, I tried to play it cool. I smiled. I asked how her day was. Inside, though, I was screaming, begging myself not to confront her until I had something concrete. I needed more. I needed undeniable proof. So, while she was in the shower that night, I did the thing I swore I'd never do. I opened her phone. My heart was pounding so hard I could barely hold it steady. Her password was easy. I guess she never imagined I'd be the kind of husband who'd stoop this low. And there it was. Messages. Threads of conversations with a Nate. It wasn't just innocent small talk. It was too familiar, too warm. Phrases like, "Last night was perfect," and "I can't stop thinking about you." I sat there on the edge of the bed, staring at the screen like I'd been hit with a sledgehammer. I wanted to confront her right then and there. I wanted to throw the phone at her feet and demand an explanation. But all I could do was sit there, my whole body numb, while she came out of the bathroom humming, wrapped in a towel, looking like the woman I once thought I knew. I put her phone back and pretended to be asleep when she slipped into bed. I've never felt so powerless in my life. I'm a man who can't even confront his own wife while she lies next to him. I don't know if I'm scared of her denial or her honesty, but something broke in me that night. I know I can't go back. I can't unsee those messages. I can't unfeel the way my stomach turned reading them. I have to know what's really happening, and I have to find out soon. Because if I keep living like this, half in suspicion, half in denial, I'm going to lose my mind completely. By the next day, I was no longer just suspicious, I was consumed. Every move Clara made felt like a performance. Every time she smiled at me, I imagined her smiling the same way at Nate, and it made my stomach churn. I couldn't focus on work. I barely ate. All I did was think, replaying every moment of the past few weeks in my mind, trying to spot the signs I'd missed. I started to realize that maybe I'd been missing them for years. That evening, she said she was going out again. "Maya's having a rough time," she explained casually, like I was supposed to nod and accept it without question. I just stared at her, the words burning in my throat, but I didn't say anything. Instead, I smiled, a fake, tight-lipped smile, and told her to have fun. She seemed relieved, which made me want to scream. The moment the door closed behind her, I grabbed my car keys. I wasn't going to sit at home like some pitiful, clueless husband while she went off to God knows where. I followed her. My hands were slick with sweat on the steering wheel as I trailed her car from a distance. my heart pounding so hard I thought it might shake the whole vehicle. She didn't drive toward Maya's place. She didn't even head in that direction. She drove straight to that same hotel. I parked 2 blocks away and waited, watching as she stepped out of the car. She wasn't dressed like she was going to see friends. She was wearing that red dress I hadn't seen in years, the one she used to wear when she wanted all eyes on her. She walked into the hotel lobby without looking back, and I swear my entire world tilted. I sat there gripping the steering wheel until my knuckles went white, fighting the urge to storm in and catch her in the act. But I didn't. I needed more than just a scene. I needed undeniable proof. I waited for almost 2 hours. Every minute felt like a slow burn, like I was being roasted alive from the inside out. When she finally came back out, her hair was messy and her lipstick was gone. She looked different. Not guilty, not even nervous, just satisfied. That image is seared into my brain, and I don't know how to ever unsee it. She didn't notice me following her home. She walked through the front door and acted like nothing had happened. "You're still up?" she asked, smiling faintly, as if she hadn't just been with someone else. I forced a smile and nodded, my chest aching with the weight of what I'd just witnessed. I wanted to yell, to throw everything I'd seen in her face, but instead I muttered something about being tired and went to bed. I lay there all night, staring at the ceiling, the image of her walking out of that hotel over and over again in my mind. I hate that I did nothing. I hate that I feel like a coward. But part of me is still waiting for her to tell the truth, to admit something, so I don't have to be the one to destroy this marriage with the words I'm holding back. The worst part is, I'm not even sure I'd leave if she confessed. I don't know what's wrong with me. I feel weak, broken. But I know one thing. I can't keep living in this limbo. Something has to give, and soon. The morning after seeing Clara at the hotel, I felt like I was trapped in someone else's life. She was in the kitchen humming, making pancakes like nothing had happened, like we were just a normal couple enjoying a slow weekend morning. I sat there watching her, my chest tight, my mouth dry, wondering how she could look me in the eye and smile like that after what I saw. I kept waiting for her to slip up, for her to say something that would crack her perfect act, but she didn't. She just went on, asking me if I wanted more coffee, kissing my cheek like I wasn't sitting there shaking inside. I don't know if she's just that good at lying, or if I'm just too broken to call her out. I tried to confront her in a roundabout way. I asked about her night with Maya, watching her closely, hoping she'd fumble, but she didn't even blink. "Oh, Maya was tired. We just had drinks and talked," she said casually, pouring syrup over her pancakes. I almost laughed because it was such a clean, rehearsed line, but I bit my tongue. My voice was shaking when I said, "You should have called. I was worried." And she just smiled at me like I was a child who didn't understand how the world works. I couldn't keep pretending, not after what I saw. I needed proof, something so undeniable that even if she tried to lie, the words would die in her throat. That night, when she went to bed early, I stayed awake on the couch, staring at the walls until my mind landed on an idea so reckless I almost scared myself. I was going to catch her, no more games. I called in sick to work the next day and spent half the morning setting up a small hidden camera I'd ordered a while back for our front porch security. My hands shook as I adjusted it in her car while she was taking a shower, angling it perfectly so I could see who she met. I felt sick doing it, but I told myself I had no choice. When she left that evening, I watched the feed on my phone like some kind of desperate, pathetic detective. For the first 20 minutes, there was nothing, just her driving. Then the car stopped. My breath caught when I saw him, Nate, getting into the passenger seat. He wasn't a random guy from her office. He wasn't just a friend. The way she looked at him in that short clip told me everything. Her eyes lit up in a way I hadn't seen in years, like he was her whole world. I felt my hands go numb. I couldn't think straight. I grabbed my keys and drove to where the tracker said she was parked, my heart pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. I didn't have a plan. I just needed to see them together, to see with my own eyes what I already knew. But when I turned the corner and saw her car parked outside that same hotel, with his hand brushing her shoulder as they laughed, I froze. I sat there in my car, gripping the wheel, watching them walk inside, and for the first time in my life, I felt completely hollow. I wanted to storm in, to drag her out and demand the truth, but I couldn't move. I sat there for almost an hour, watching the entrance like a broken man, until they came back out. She looked happy. She looked alive. And I realized I hadn't seen her smile like that around me in a long time. I followed her home from a distance, my brain on fire, wondering when my life had turned into this nightmare. That night, I didn't sleep. I lay awake while she snuggled next to me, pretending nothing was wrong, while I stared at the ceiling thinking about how far gone we really were. Something inside me shifted. I knew I couldn't keep waiting for her to tell me the truth. I was going to force it out, no matter how ugly it got. I knew I couldn't keep living in the shadows of my own marriage. That night, I told myself I was done being silent, done being the man who swallowed suspicion like poison every day. When Clara came home the next evening, I was sitting at the kitchen table, waiting. My hands were cold and shaking, but my voice was steady when I said, "We need to talk." She looked at me, really looked at me, and for the first time in weeks, I saw something crack in her expression. Not guilt, pain. She sat down across from me, her lips pressed together like she was bracing for impact. I told her everything. The tracker, the cafe receipt, the hotel. My voice cracked as I admitted how I'd been watching her, how I'd been losing my mind piece by piece. I expected her to explode with anger, to pack her bags and call me crazy. Instead, she did something I didn't see coming. She cried. Not the kind of crying you do when you've been caught in a lie, but the kind that comes from being cornered by life itself. Through her tears, she told me the truth. Yes, she'd been seeing someone, but it wasn't an affair. It was a therapist. Nate wasn't a lover. He was the counselor she'd been meeting in secret because she didn't know how to tell me she'd been struggling with anxiety and panic attacks for months. I didn't know what to say. My mind spun in circles, replaying every suspicion, every sleepless night, realizing I had built this entire nightmare in my head. She admitted she'd been distant, that she felt like she was drowning and didn't want me to see her falling apart. "I should have told you," she whispered, "but I didn't want you to see me as weak." I just sat there, tears stinging my eyes, feeling like the world's biggest fool. I had doubted the woman who stood by me through everything. I had spied on her, followed her, mistrusted her, and for what? My paranoia had almost destroyed us. But instead of breaking, something in us healed that night. I told her how I'd been feeling invisible, how I thought I was losing her. We talked for hours, long into the night, the way we hadn't done in years. For the first time in so long, we were honest with each other, painfully, brutally honest. Over the next few weeks, we started going to therapy together. It wasn't easy. It was raw and messy, but it was real. I deleted the tracker app, threw out that stupid napkin, and promised myself I'd never let fear turn me into someone I wasn't proud of again. Clara started opening up more, and I started listening. Not just hearing, but really listening. Last night, we went out for dinner, just the two of us. She wore that same red dress, but this time, when she smiled, I knew that smile was mine. I said, half joking, "Good luck on your date." And she laughed, really laughed. No panic, no shadows, just Clara, the woman I love, looking at me like I'm still her person. I don't know what the future holds, but I do know this. That night when I thought everything was falling apart was actually the start of us finding our way back. And maybe, just maybe, we're stronger now than we've ever been.